Welcome back to Maths in an Empty Classroom with me, Mr. Southern. This is a continuation of Stretch the Function, first question. What we worked out in the previous video was that the integral of x plus 1 times x minus 1 all squared between -1 and 2, the value of that integral was 9 over 4. We did that by expanding out and evaluating. And we then said, okay, well, if I want the value of the integral rather than being 9 over 4 to be 1, I'd have to make a 4 over 9. The extension to the stretch the function activity was to say, okay, well, what if rather than the value of it being 1, I want the area between the curve and the x-axis between those two limits to be 1? Because this was the other purpose of this exercise, to get you to realise that actually integrating between -1 and 2 might not actually tell you the area between the curve and the axes between those two limits, because it depends on how the curve behaves between -1 and 2. And when I say behaves, what I mean is where it goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a quick sketch. Now I've got a cubic graph here. I've got a root at -1. So one of my x-intercepts is going to be -1, 0. Another one is going to be at 1, 0, and that one's going to be repeated because of the x squared. Now what that means is that it's going to go up through like so. So this is the point -1, 0, and this is the point 1, 0, which means that the point where x equals 2 would be approximately here. So what we're being asked is the area between x is -1 and x is 2 and the curve between the x-axis. So I'm just going to draw my line up here, and what we're being asked to find is the total area enclosed by the curve between -1 and 2. So that would be all of this and all of this. Now the fact that none of that area is below the x-axis means there's going to be no negative part to this integral, and what that means is that actually the area of this section that I've shaded blue is 9 over 4, which is the value that I found here, and therefore to turn this into an area of 1, a would still be 4 over 9. Now that's not the case in the next one that I'll go through, and when we get to that we look at the graph, we'll see why. I'll see you in a minute.